everybody. Thank you again for being here today, right now, and any other time that you've been here this week. We so appreciate your support and your interest in what we do. We keep trying to do neat things all the time, so we just need neat people like you all to take part. It is my utmost pleasure to introduce my new best friend, John Simmons. This guy is so good to me that every time I ask him to do anything to help me, he says yes. Yes, Julia, whatever you'd like me to do. He's just so wonderful.
I just love you,
So
and I just
thank
love
you,
the
John. I
sentiment.
so appreciate that. So I'm going to let him speak for himself, but I want to just say a couple of important things about John. He's an Emmy award-winning photographer, painter, artist, and professor. He was born and raised in Chicago. I like this quote that I got off of your interview that you had recently. It says, every time, this is John speaking, every time I take a picture, I bring my entire life experience to that moment. Every click of the shutter is a totality of the music I've heard, the love and pain I've seen and lived, and has shaped the way I see. With that, I introduce John Simmons.
Hey, folks. And Julia, thank you for asking me to do this. And I'm so sorry I didn't get to participate this week because I wish I could have seen everyone. And look at that cute little baby over there. It's nice
That's
everybody would have.
Phoebe. That's Phoebe and
Hey, Phoebe, how are you?
there's Sergio in the back, right? Yeah, there's my pals back there.
That's cool. That's good. So, yeah, that statement is true. And I think it's true for all of us that every moment of our lives represents the totality of our lives, and the way we shape our frames, the way we see the things that we're sensitive to are all a part of everything that has made us who we are. And that's why I guess we never stop learning, that we're continually in a state of becoming and adding to our lives and changing the lives of others. And I just think that it's such an amazing thing. And I think that we're so fortunate to converge with certain events as artists, for your life to be intertwined with those people downtown. That's an amazing thing. I know that it enriches your life, but the lives it enriches because of you is incredible. And the magic of it is that it enriches our lives, and the pictures speak far and beyond the time that we share with you and the time that you share and the time that any of us share on this planet. The pictures are always going to work. They're always going to do their job. Someone's always going to be touched and changed by all the pictures that all of us make. And we're so fortunate to be given this gift. And I really think it is a gift because you as a teacher, you do really well at teaching people. I don't know. I really don't know how you do that because, everything that we do is motivated by this passion and this love for the frame, for being able to frame things. And at least that's how it has been for me all my life. Hey, Tahuli, how are you? And, and I started taking pictures when I was 15 years old in Chicago. And I was born in 1950. And, and so it was 1965 when I started taking pictures. And I had grown up, in an environment that was quite interesting. My parents encouraged the arts. And although my father had very little education, he was a successful businessman. And my mother, she had been to college, so she made it a point that my sister and I would spend time in museums and concerts and, all kinds of things like that. So I think hanging out with my old man, kind of gave me the ability to navigate the streets in the way that I do. And I still feel, comfortable in all kinds of environments. And I think had a lot to do with him. And that camera, I could truly say probably saved my life because the environment in Chicago eats people. You know, the one that I come from devours a lot of people, and to be able to latch on to something that you love and that you can move with is a valuable thing. So I was fortunate. I had a friend named Louis, whose brother was Bobby Singstack, who you guys should Google sometimes. He's a real dope photographer. And his family owned a newspaper called the Chicago Defender, the oldest black publication in the country. And Bobby, I thought he was like the hippest cat I'd ever seen. He had a nice car, you know, he had cameras draped all over him. He was playing John Coltrane in a dark room. And I knew him since I was like 5 years old. But by the time I wanted to be hip, he was there as my compass to head in the right direction. And I can't tell you, but you all know what it was like the first time you walked into a dark room and saw a picture come out the chemicals. You know, I mean, could there be anything more magical? But that wasn't the first time I fell in love with pictures. I can remember that this photographer came to my house when I was young, and we had a piano in the living room, and my sister played it, nobody else did. And we all crowded around the piano, and we all looked forward to the photographer showing up. He was going to come on Sunday, you know, and everybody was excited about it. So the cat shows up with a 35 millimeter camera and starts taking our portraits. And he would unload the camera and hand me the film to put into the screw on containers with the yellow top. You guys remember those from Kodak, right? And I just thought, even at that age, how incredibly magical that moment was to be able to have it in the can like that and then come back a week later and present the photographs. And I can't tell you, that magic still works for me. I mean, it still touches me. I think even with digital photography, for us to be able to grab that moment and then there it is, and not it's just not there. It's there for a long time, and it's got emotion, and it touches us and moves us. I just can't get over it. It wakes me up in the morning and I feel good about it. I'm very fortunate at this point in my life because I get to make movies and TV shows, and that's what I do during the day. And I work on my paintings and collages at night, and I take pictures whenever I want to. And I think that that's just something that I've worked towards. I'm like 70 years old now, and I still feel like a baby every time I look through that camera or pick up my still camera. And I used to have a lot of nostalgia for developing film and shooting film, but I don't care about that so much anymore. I care more about being able to capture, tell the story, you know, with the tools that I have. And, you know, what would really be nice is if when I show you the pictures, you know, we could talk as we go. If you see things and you want to ask me about them, please ask me. You know, I always feel like I don't do the best presentations in terms of talking about photography. It always turns out that I do a lot better than I think because I'm talking about something that I love. And especially when I'm talking with people that love it. That's what I dig about these kinds of things. I look at all these faces, and there's not one person on here whose heart is not about what we're talking about, you know, and that in itself is something that always moves me. We have that thing called the American Cinematographers Awards every year. It is my favorite event of the year to just be with everybody who the only thing you care about is what has been captured on film or digitally or whatever. It's just about that frame, about seeing and separating and sharing. So, you know, really feel free to interrupt me as we look at the pictures. So, and thank you for sticking around to see my stuff. I always feel like, I kind of feel like a picture for me is like a piece of music. I don't know, I don't know how much really needs to be said about a picture, especially with the longevity of a picture. And when none of us are there anymore to speak about it. Then the picture begins to speak for itself. And when we listen to a piece of music, we don't intellectualize Beethoven, and we don't intellectualize John Coltrane. We just appreciate it. We might intellectualize that thing in retrospect, but when we first dig it for the first time, we hear it, we experience it, we feel it. And that's how I like to appreciate art. For me, I feel like that's how it works. I like to be moved by the image, and let that thing speak. And that's what I always say. And then I get ready to show you my pictures. I can't stop talking, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, that's me. This is a real early picture. This is 1965. It's called A Man with a Pistol. And, um, you know, back in the day, people were not afraid of cameras. They weren't afraid of social media or you really abusing their images. But not only that, but I was also bulletproof in 1965, so I wasn't really afraid to put a camera on anybody, even a man with a pistol. That's his pistol in his pocket, and he's got some enormous shoes on. We can go on, Matthew. We can go to the next picture. This is called Street Corner. I was always, Bobby was a street photographer as well as a newspaper photographer. And he introduced me to photography through the work of Roy DeCarava and the book A Sweet Fly Paper of Life, with the story by Langston Hughes and the photographs by Roy DeCarava. And when I first saw that book, and Bobby shared his work with me throughout the years, I wanted to do that. That was something that I felt like I could do. I felt like we need to have this affinity and this love for life, and that's what I would see in the photographs of these people. And when you talk about Cartier-Bresson, or you talk about Roy, or you talk about any of those people that shoot street photography, there's a love for humanity. And I love the people in my community. And my community was very close. You have to understand that in 1965, that was the first year that Black people were allowed to vote. And nothing was more segregated than Chicago, except South Africa. And one busy street separated each culture from another. So in this encapsulated environment, I felt very comfortable. I felt close to the people. And I felt like, everyone was my family. And eventually it becomes all of our families because, it just, all of our work just represents this fabric of humanity that is expressed through everything. This corner, these people talking, that could happen anywhere in any environment, whether they're leaning up against igloos or Cadillacs or whatever. This kind of thing takes place. We can go forward. This picture is called Love on the Bus. It's one of my favorite pictures. And it's interesting too how we're able to share this moment with people. And this, it's 1965. You get 36 exposures. So you're real careful of how you're shooting. You're not trying to spray a scene with a motor drive or anything like that. So this photograph has two pictures on the negative. No, actually three. One, they're looking out the window. The next one, they're laughing at each other. And then they settle down into this. And it's just a really nice moment for me. And it'll always be that for people. And we can move forward. I call this picture the nanny. It's back in the 60s too. Moving forward. Yeah, this is the pool hall. That might have been someplace where I might have tried a little MD 2020. And and also it was in my neighborhood. We used to go there all the time. And I wouldn't go there and play pool, but I wasn't very good at those things, but I'd shoot pictures. This is called the Parade. It's Bud Billiken Day in Chicago. The newspaper, the Chicago Defender, would hold this event every day. And I was lucky because I shot pictures for the paper. I started shooting for the paper when I was 16 years old. And I like this picture because that little boy is levitating on the right. We can go forward. You know, I tell you, this is one of my favorite pictures. In fact, I could go as far as to say it is my favorite picture. It almost feels religious to me for some reason. You know, I don't know what I mean by that. But I love the reflection of the woman in the mirror. It's in front of Carson Perry Scott in Chicago. And the mirrors outside the door were diagonal. So it's reflecting in that woman, it's reflecting her face. And this picture I call Christmas Eve because it was taken on Christmas Eve. And this little girl is probably just saying something as simple as, why can't I get that doll? But still, nonetheless, it looks so emotional. I just love it. Now, this is truly an MD 2020 day. I have to admit, my friend and I were in the ice cream parlor, 16 years old, being looking for self-discovery through self-destruction. And I sat down between two chairs and slipped. And as soon as I gained my balance, there she was looking at me. And I just think, I just think it's amazing, you know, because this is 1967, I think. Yeah, 67. So I was having an exhibit not long ago, and my buddy was saying, Johnny, can you do the math on this little girl? I said, damn, she's like 50 years old or something, you know? And but for us, she'll always be that little girl. I think that that's so amazing. I just recently blew that picture up 4 feet, and it's huge. You should see that thing when it's 4 feet. It's amazing. Okay, not much to say about this. Lady shopping, getting ready to buy something. This is 1968. A lot was going on in 1968. You know, I looked at this picture the other day. I looked at the negatives, and the photograph before this is a really wonderful photograph of Jesse Jackson. And right behind it is another photograph of some other people. It's one shot. This picture is one shot on a 36 exposure roll. And, you know, I pretty much shoot my digital stuff like that now because I've been trained to like save my film, you know, and it's crazy, but I still shoot like that, you know, take a picture and ready to move on. We can go to the next one. This picture I call window writing. This picture, I really like it. You know, a lot of people are moved by it. A lot of museums have collected it. And to be honest, I don't always know what the real affinity this picture creates with people, but it's a nice, sensitive moment. Chicago, wintertime. We can go forward. I just found this negative recently. You know what happened? This is interesting. The woman I'm married to now, Cynthia, I've been with her for 30 years. Before that, I was married to someone else for 10 years. And neither of those people had ever seen any of my photographs until about 19, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. I did a little exhibit with 12 pictures in it. But my pictures were in a fire. I put my stuff in someone's garage, and they caught on, and the garage burned down. And the woman whose house it was called me like 3 days later to tell me that there was a fire. And I go by there and there's a storm going on. I open the garage door. The garage is full of rats because somebody had been storing some grains in there. I had to stuff my pants down my legs and man up and walk in that garage and get my stuff. So, you know, I've been salvaging these negatives ever since then. And just recently, I've had someone help me begin to archive these things and pull them together. I have like lots of photographs that I've never even printed. But my buddy, uh, who was a writer and a philosopher, I practiced Tai Chi. And we've been practicing Tai Chi together for years. And he had these little moleskin books that he always would read something to me out of, and to my friends. I've known him since I was 14 years old. And he talked about how he wanted to publish the books. And I went up to Oakland to help him out, get him into hospice care with his pancreatic cancer. And all the way up until the day he died, he talked about publishing his books. So that's not going to happen. So I had a studio in East LA, and I walked over there and I saw a picture of the Black Panthers. And I realized that nobody had ever seen that picture before. And I began to feel like I was about to become a Vivian Maier. And I began to print my pictures. I printed and framed over 120 pictures. And then I went to a meeting at the ASC one day, and I showed some prints to a friend of mine, and he introduced me to Armando Arizio, who has the Perfect Exposure Gallery, and he gave me a show. And I have to tell you, I don't know about you guys, but as an artist, there's a lot of self-doubt. I was so afraid that these pictures weren't going to really resonate with people. And it turns out that, they do. And now that this woman is helping me catalog these pictures, a lot of new pictures will appear. And this one, I probably printed for the first time, I guess about maybe a couple of months ago. I've got a show up right now at the Casa 01001 Gallery in East LA. And that's the first time this picture's been shown. It's over there right now. But yeah, this is 1968. It's pretty much around the corner from this picture. This is called Girl with Cops, which is pretty interesting. I just got a magazine from Harvard University, design magazine, and this picture's in it, next to a Gordon Parks picture. This is the Blackstone Rangers in Chicago, a street gang. And what they're doing here is they're trying to convince people that they're now a religious organization, the El Rukins. And that didn't go too well, because about a month after this picture was taken, they got caught trying to buy a rocket launcher from Gaddafi. And that's Reverend C.T. Vivian, Martin Luther King's boy, in the middle. Yeah. Once again, the picture just has to talk. Okay. This picture, I mean, right now in 2021, Los Angeles, it doesn't say very much. But this was in the 60s in Chicago. And this interracial couple is taking a chance, doing whatever they do. And as you see this woman relaxing in this man's arms, and this man's eyes pretty much tells the whole story, because he doesn't really know if it's going to be cool or not. That picture's called The Dance. These are some of my neighbors when I lived in Tennessee. That's my Volkswagen outside the window. And this is just called Dinner Down South. It looks like a set. It's nice. This picture is also some of my neighbors. It's called JFK and Doll. A lot of Black people, I guess, still do, but back in the day, everybody had a picture of John Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Jesus and Mary. It was a common thing seen in a lot of Black homes. And that's why I call it JFK and Doll, for lack of a better title. We don't have to talk about what he's doing. We know what he's doing. That's called Meat Market, MEET Market. That's down in Nashville. I like how these people are checking each other out. Nina Simone, Did anybody see that documentary about Nina Simone? This is a tragedy. That documentary will tear your heart out. This is 1971. And that's like 1971 in that documentary is a rough year for this woman. She's with that horrible husband. She leaves that stage and walks into a nightmare. But I like this picture. I just printed it pretty big. Shirley Chisholm, first Black woman to run for president. Not only that, but when George Wallace got shot, Shirley Chisholm went down there to talk to him. Everybody tried to convince her not to go, but she went. Shortly after that, George Wallace started to denounce segregation. I don't know if it's those 9 rounds in his body or Shirley Chisholm, but it was definitely a coincidence that she went there against everyone's advice, and the man changed after her visit. This little shoe shine scientist melting his polish. It's Nashville, Tennessee. 2 shoes. You know, this picture is truly a testament to the power of a photograph. That exhibit I told you about in at the Perfect Exposure. I went in there one day, it was in the afternoon, and it was during the week, and there was a woman there, and she had her briefcase and business suit on. And she walks up to me and she said, the gallery is empty except the 2 of us. And she turns away from the receptionist's desk and walks towards me. And she says, I just purchased one of your photographs. I said, I really appreciate that. And then all of a sudden, she began to look like she was about to cry. She took a Kleenex out of her purse. She said, I've been privileged all my life. I've always lived in Brentwood, and I've wanted everything I've ever wanted, I got. And I was looking at that picture of yours, and all of a sudden, it just made me grateful for everything that I've been able to do and everything I have. I'm going to put that picture next to my front door, so it's the last thing I see when I leave home. And I was like, feeling like I wanted to cry after she said that. But that's like so important. That's like why the things we do are so important, because they just touch so many people. I'm sure that lady took that story to other people and changed other people's feelings about things. Some more of my Nashville neighbors. I went down, this is Rosa Parks. I don't remember, I think this might be like 93. She's at a birthday party at not a convalescent home, an old folks home. You could tell she's from Detroit because she won't put her purse down. Um, she ain't letting nobody get close to that. But yeah, that's Rosa. Young man goes one way, an old man goes the other. Will on Chevy. The little girl that's combing the doll's hair, that's Will's sister. And that's his new car. These people were really, really poor. I can remember going to their house one day and there was snow on the stove in the wintertime. And I lived next door to them, so there could have been snow on my stove, probably. I was in college. Rent was $50. We can keep going. This is called Off Work. That needs to be said about that. This is called Friends. That's also down the street from where I lived in Nashville. Nashville was a nice place to be. This is called Father Divine. And if there's any such thing as a decisive moment, this picture is an example of one, because there's so much going on in this photograph. And one frame later, I took 3 pictures. And the frame before and the frame after, none of this is happening. Just right now, this happens. Angela Davis. I have a lot of pictures of Angela Davis, you know, where she's in the middle of a fiery speech or teaching a class. But I just felt like this picture spoke more about the person, that little feeling of introspection. I just love that. This is just a picture of some dancers. This is at Xavier College in New Orleans, a nun making ceramics. I used to take pictures for the Nation of Islam newspaper in Chicago during the 60s. And this is a mosque in Nashville, Tennessee. It was really funny too, because I took pictures here in Los Angeles and something very funny happened. One of my good friends is a white dude. His name is Charlie. My son is named after him. I said, Charlie, give me a ride to deliver these pictures. And we go down to the mosque. That wasn't the right thing to do, but I forgot Charlie was white. You can go on. This is a funeral. Well, I guess it says funeral, kind of. Motorcycle gang funeral, actually. This is a negative. Oh, hmm. This is a negative that got destroyed in a fire. And recently somebody gave me a print and I was able to scan it. I had lost this picture. Not only that, but my favorite picture, Christmas Eve, the one I showed you guys that I said was kind of religious feeling, that picture was destroyed in the fire. Someone gave me a print and I was able to scan it. That's how I got that photograph back. I felt like I had discovered gold when I got that thing in the mail one day. And shortly after that, I actually found the gelatin print. It was in a folder that I had, which really surprised me. And we can go forward. This is, well, you know who that is. I was down in Cuba shooting a documentary. I was 23 years old. And we were outside shooting something, and some Cuban soldiers and another guy came up to us and said, would you mind coming in this building and shooting something for us? And because our cameraman is not showing up, could you come in here? We have the film. We'll give you the roll of film. We loaded our Eclair camera with it and went in there and shot Philip Agee, a defecting CIA agent, talking to an audience of people. And as soon as we finished, one of the cats says to me, would you like to take a ride with us? I said, yeah, we want to show you something. And we get into the back of a Jeep. And in front of us, a Jeep pulls out and it's got Fidel in it. And the next thing I know, that's a 50 millimeter lens. And this is not even my favorite photograph of Fidel that I have, but he even signed a peso and gave it to me. But yeah, that was quite an experience. This is an interesting thing. This is shot with one of those little bitty Leica point and shoot cameras, you know, like the cheapest one that can fit in your pocket. And there's an artist, his name is Alejandro Santiago. And these are statues that are representing all the people who have left his village in Oaxaca and have crossed the desert to come to the United States. And what he did as an artist, he crossed the desert with a group of people, and then he went back into Mexico and he began to do this installation. And one of my students from UCLA was shooting a documentary about him. And she was about to fail the class because she didn't make a documentary that the documentary department felt really told the story. And shortly after that, like no sooner than they got that out their mouth, she was granted an American Federation of the Arts scholarship fellowship for like $60,000 to finish her documentary, and immediately became the poster child of documentary filmmaking at UCLA. And her name was Yolanda Cruz. And she asked me would I go down to Mexico and finish the documentary with her. And I just loved going to Mexico, so that wasn't hard to convince me. And Alejandro and I became close friends. And just recently, I discovered so many photographs I have of him. He died. I want to take him to his family, but we can go on. This is called the cotillion, and it's almost like a time travel photograph. You feel like Duke Ellington or Count Basie's going to show up until you see those iPhones. And a friend of mine, he makes videos. Um, and this one was for an organization called the Lynx, which is a very old black bourgeoisie organization. And this is a debutante ball. And this is the father and son daughter dance. And my man called me up and he says, Johnny, I need a cameraman to come and shoot this Lynx cotillion because my cameraman bailed on me and all I have is $100. I said, did you say Lynx cotillion? Which I've been hearing about all my life, right? I said, I'm going, I'll do it because I knew I would come back there with something. And this is the picture I came back with and I just love it. Those are paper steps up there too. Those aren't real. This picture is called Caravaggio. A lot of people think it's some Photoshop trick, but what it really is I was standing there shooting. What's that dude's name from Star Wars? I can't remember what he's called, but I was watching him levitate, and I saw this group of Muslim people that was over to the right of frame, and I've been kind of shooting pictures of people with Muslim garb on. Yeah, Yoda. Thank you, Mike. Yoda. Yeah, that's right. Levitating. And I've been shooting a lot of pictures of these Muslim people because it was during that time where they were getting so much static about their clothes. And I just wanted to get a photograph that put them in with people, in with life, and just be there. And I tell you, I looked down for 1 second and these people were almost out of my frame, but I got the picture. And it's just kind of magical to me. I like to call this picture Degas. It's at a Debbie Allen dance performance. And you know what happened? Was I didn't know that on silent shutter, LED lights would be out of phase with the camera. So I had to do a lot of cleaning up to make this picture work until one of my students told me to take off the silent shutter and that wouldn't happen. I didn't know that. But yeah, this is Degas for me. That's what it reminds me of. Well, this was 2016. Nobody listened to that because he became president. This is called the fan, and it's at a religious kind of ceremony, African religion. And the sun is very bright. And I turn around, and this woman has put this fan in front of her face and has her hand out because she's about to get some kind of little, offering or something from the priest. But it's called a fan, and I think it just works so well. And you got to see this picture when it's 4 feet. Man, it's bad. It's powerful at 4 feet. It's no joke. This pandemic totally messed my money up. I went, I think my dining room right now has 25 pictures, and all of them are like 3 feet by something. I don't know what I was doing. I just totally messed up a credit card. My wife said, you got to stop. But I printed a lot of pictures really big. You got to see them, Julia.
I can't wait.
Now, I always believe that because my pictures are, candid pictures, and I carry a camera every day. I don't take a picture every day. I take a picture when me and a picture run into each other. I feel like, there's just a convergence that is supposed to happen. And this picture is truly a testament of that to me. I was down in Little Tokyo, and I was about my third trip from First Street to Second Street trying to find a parking space. And I find one, and I park. And as soon as I get out the car, 50 millimeter away, no cropping, is this federal public defender with that person laying on the street. I mean, that's definitely kismet. You know what I mean? I mean, that's how I see it. I don't know how true that is. This is called A Day at the Races. And like I said, I don't have any problem going to Mexico. I used to really like to go to the racetrack. And this is my favorite racetrack picture. He's got a racing form in his hand. It was on the cover of American Cinematographer a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago. This is the night that Trump lost the election. And that's a gas station by my house. And I live in Silver Lake, so there was a lot of dancing going on in Silver Lake. Well, this is called Nazi. And like I said, I don't take many pictures. I got on the subway and it was Hitler's birthday. So some Nazi group was having a protest in front of the courthouse. And we never really got to see them because there was a big fence that separated this crowd from the protest, the white supremacists. So I got on the subway because I didn't want to drive down there. I got off the subway. I shot a couple of pictures. And then I shot this picture. And I looked at it and I said, well, it ain't going to get no better than that. So I left, but this is from that event and called Nazi. This is a picture I took on Melrose over there across the street from Fairfax High. And I think it's amazing because, you know, there's no Photoshop work here. It's just contrast, basically. And I was driving down Melrose and I saw them taking pictures. And I got out the car, I drove around the block, and I'm sure they would be gone. They're always gone, you know? I drive around the block and I start taking pictures. I like it because the sign says, choose fun, and her pants say, not me, right? And I think it's just so amazing because it's only that day, that time, that that light is going to break through those trees and make those shadows on that wall. And they're only going to do it that day, at that hour. The next day, it's going to be gone. And now the sign is gone and the wings are gone. But the picture's here, and I really love it. And when you see the picture really big, you can see her in that cell phone. Yeah. Ronaldo, were you going to say something? Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. Okay. Oh, that's everything. Well,
I want more. I want more.
thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much. Oh, you say you're on good. You're so good at this. Everything you say comes out of your mouth is perfect and wonderful and insightful and sharing. So thank you. No, it's great.
I wish it felt like that while I was saying it.
Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions for John? If you do, you feel free to unmute yourself and you can just speak up. And I have a quick question for you, John.
I'd just like to point out that one of his former students is here, Thule.
Hey, Julie.
Johnny,
I love you.
this was so incredible, so moving. Your work is so fantastic, and I can't, you know, every time I see it, it's even more and more powerful. And this time it was also a lot of new stuff that I hadn't seen before. Really beautiful, really beautiful.
Thank you so much. Do you know Mimi Fan?
Mimi Fan, no, who is
Oh,
Mimi
she was at
Fan?
UCLA. She's been helping me archive this stuff.
Oh, okay, she must be after me, like a.
I just found I got so many more pictures that I've never printed that I'm just dying to print. I haven't had time to do it. I keep finding them every day, it seems like.
Yeah, having the help to do that, that makes all, makes a world of difference.
Yeah,
So I'm glad you have someone.
especially just somebody to be more focused than I am, which doesn't take much. So she's a great help. Matthew, you were going to ask me something?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, back when you first started, you said, I forget how old you said you were.
I was 15.
You were 15. And did you print the pictures at that time, or was it more about the taking of the pictures? Like, what
Oh,
was your thought around photography? And
Matthew, I discovered that dark room and I couldn't get out of it. I printed, I developed, I I just loved being in that dark room. And I was working for the newspaper, so I was printing for other photographers as well. And my friend Bobby Singstack loaned me a camera at a convention when I was 15 years old. And I told him I wanted to try it, take some pictures. So he sees the pictures after they're developed and he says, "Damn, buddy, you got an eye." And just kind of took me under his wing with the most incredible, generous heart and just shared so much with me. And I'll tell you, he also helped me get a scholarship to Fisk University, and where he had an artist in residence. And that's how I was able to get so many pictures from down in Nashville, Tennessee. But yeah, I was 15 and he loaned me a Nikon. And shortly after that, I used to work for a cat. It was interesting. My old man had a numbers operation. I don't know if you know what that was, but one of his drivers um, would have me in the truck picking up numbers. And that guy was the first guy to help me buy a camera after my father died. And it's just amazing what gets us to where we are, the people you run into. It's just, it's amazing just the stories, and the life that has brought me to share this Zoom with everybody and get up in the morning and go make a TV show. It's incredible the things that help create us.
we have a comment here. Beautiful, moving, humanistic photography at its best. Thank you so much. A monograph, please. Do you plan on making a book of your work?
I've been really thinking about doing that. I tell you, like I told you, that exhibit at Armando's kind of blew my mind that everybody, was going to dig the pictures like that. That was in 2016. And it really has taken off, I don't want to brag, but I just want to tell you guys, because it blows my mind too. I was on my way to get I'm a governor at the TV Academy and for cinematographers peer group. And I hadn't been there in a long time because I'm shooting every Thursday, and Thursday is when they would have the governors meetings. So I tell my wife, I said, "Cynthia, they're having the LA area Emmys today. Let's get dressed and go over there." And there had been a letter laying on my table for a couple of days, and it was from the University of Arizona. And I didn't know what CCP was, but it was the Center for Creative Photography. And I opened the letter on my way there, and it's an invitation to the history of North American photography. And they've selected 19 photographs. And you know what that is. That's the thing that Ansel Adams put together in the 70s. And they listed every photographer that I ever wanted to know what they did, what they ate, what time they went to bed, what kind of clothes did they wear, how do they take those pictures, how are they invisible like that, what magic do they have? And then I go there and I win an Emmy that day for a picture that I didn't even like making. And I tell you, I didn't even feel that Emmy. The only thing I could feel was that those people in Arizona had acknowledged my stuff, because my friend, excuse my French, says, "Johnny, you were just effing around and now somebody's taking them pictures serious." And, so since 2016, a lot of museums have collected the stuff. And in June, I'm part of an exhibit called Images, what's it called? In Focus Protest. And I'm hanging on the wall with Dorothea Lange, Leonard Freed, Bruce Davidson. I mean, that's just to name a few. And I never knew that that was going to happen. But see, the thing about it is that like I was saying, and what Julia shared with you guys about every moment we live to the totality of our being, I look at those pictures like that one in 1965 or that one just a few months ago. And I don't even know who that cat is that took those pictures. Because that's the thing about art and photography. We're always like in this credible state of becoming. And I don't ever feel like I got it. You know, I don't ever feel like I got it. You guys know James Van Der Zee? James Van Der Zee, he's an amazing photographer. He was Marcus Garvey's photographer. He's like from the 30s and the 40s. And I was doing a documentary and I was shooting James Van Der Zee. I said, James, so what was your favorite part of photography? He said, I love flash powder. I said, really, flash powder? You love flash powder? I said, and what was the most difficult thing about photography? He said the most difficult thing about photography for him is still the most difficult thing about photography. He says, making the camera see what you see. And I said, I got that. Because that's the thing that I'm being challenged with every day. When I go to Paramount Studios on Monday, making that camera see what I see. When I pick up my camera that I carry in my pocket, that thing is still there. I still am just as unsure, you know, and you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else have a last couple questions for John? Feel free to shout them out.
Shout them out.
I got a question.
Hey, Ken.
Hi, John. Wonderful work. Thank you so much for sharing that. Just beautiful work.
Thank you.
I just was curious, your move from photography to cinematography, was there a connection or was that just opportunistic?
Well, I can't even say it was opportunistic. I was down in Nashville, Tennessee in undergraduate school, and there was a man named Carlton Moss. He was a film director and a film historian. He used to work with Orson Welles. He was Lena Horne's road manager, Paul Robeson's road manager. He made a film called The Negro Soldier during the Why We Fight period of Capra's documentaries. And he saw my work and he says, hey, you know what? You're a cinematographer. I didn't know what that was. I'd never heard the word before. And he brought this other cat by my house named Usman Sambini, who came to show his film. He's the father of African cinema. He's dead now. And he says, I want to show you this guy's pictures. And he looks at my pictures and says the exact same thing Carlton said. And Carlton began to send me American Cinematographer magazines. And there's this couple, Roz and Cal Bernstein, they own a company called Dove Films. They sent me a 16 millimeter camera, which I messed up a lot of film with. And eventually, long story short, I got a scholarship to USC Film School. And now, you know, after many years, I became a cinematographer. But, you know, that's my day job. And, you know, it's like cinematography is such a collaboration of so many people. I mean, I've got a couple of Emmys, and I feel like they're unfair because those Emmys rest on so many other people's shoulders in order to make a TV show. It's even the person walking around picking up the paper cups off the floor. You know, it's all of my cinematography rests on so many people's shoulders. But when I go out there and I pick up my still camera, that's all mine. And I don't have anybody saying, Johnny, that's feeling a little dark. Maybe that should be a little closer, you know. Leave him alone. I like what he's doing. You know, I don't get to hear any of that when I pick up that still camera. The only thing those two things have in common is they capture images. You know, they both do that. But I'm telling a story for somebody else when I go to work, But when I pick up that camera, I'm telling my own stories, you know? So that's as much as they have to do with each other, Ken.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I can relate. That's all I'll say. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Julia, would you like to say
Hey,
anything?
wait a minute, Julia, hold up.
Again, so much. I just love having you. Anytime you ever come to LACP, we're so lucky and pleased. So thank you so much.